everybody. Welcome back to the show. Today, I spoke with Saida. Saida was born with a rare genetic disorder, which affected her development. She wasn't really walking until about the age of 5. Language and talking and being able to understand things took a little time. But Saida is a very, very impressive person. Through all of her many abuses and traumas that she survived, Saida ended up in a beauty pageant and ended up going to Washington, D.C. As I talked to this young woman who is still just barely on the other side of her healing from trauma, I was so impressed with her zest for life, with her hopeful attitude. And I can't wait for you to hear Saida's story. How is it that human beings can take advantage of a beautiful little disabled girl is just beyond my comprehension. But Saida went through the fire and came out on the other side. Here's Saida. I am so happy to be here with Saida Mahoney. I want her to talk to us a little bit about her background. I think it's very important as we start this podcast that we understand that every person comes from, you know, some sort of trauma. Throughout our lives, we experience trauma. But some people, it's a little more severe than others. And Saida is one of those people that has been through a tremendous amount of trauma. And it started when she was just born. And I'd like Saida to tell us a little bit about her rare disease that she was born with. Would you do that first and foremost for us, Saida?
Yes, I can. Uh, when I was born with a extremely rare genetic condition called partial trisomy 8q duplication syndrome. And what happened is when it's not that many cases of people who have this specific condition. And when mom was pregnant with me, the doctors thought I was going to be born with Down syndrome, so the doctors ended up giving her a specific special test called the amniocentesis. And what they did was when she was pregnant with me, they put the needle inside her belly to figure out what type of genetic condition I have. And that when she did that, they found out that I had the partial trisomy AQ duplication syndrome. And another name for it is trisomy 8 mosaicism syndrome, T8MS. That's another name. And also go by the name partial trisomy AQ as well. It calls me,
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, what
it
does it
calls
cause? What does it do having this
it
con
caused me to have a whole lot of challenges in life growing up. It affects me with the way how my brain function is and how my brain processes information. I did not know how to walk when I was born with my genetic condition. I didn't know how to talk. I did not know how to do certain basic things due to my condition. I did not know how to communicate with people due to my genetic condition. I didn't know how to really use my words, the social skills and interaction skills. Did not know how to not say a word at all until I got a toddler years, and I used to crawl a lot because I know how to use my feet to move and walk around, and I was delayed in lots of my developmental skills and motor skills and coordination skills. I used to have to do speech therapy and occupational therapy and many more other services just to help me know how to get the skills I needed due to my genetic condition.
So,
And it
Saida, can you tell us what age you were when you did start to actually walk and you were able to start to speak in words? Because I know you were a little bit older.
I was 5 years old.
Okay, so 5 years old. So at that point, you've been through some pretty severe trauma already just because of your genetic condition. And then how that development with your speech and your brain and all of those things that were still developing. And they did develop to a great degree because now you can walk. In fact, Saida actually has been in a beauty pageant or two. Can you tell us about how that happened, Saida? And we'll go back to some of your other trauma, but I want to let people know about that. If you can tell me about how that happened and what you did in the beauty pageant world.
I got involved with my pageant of the Miss Amazing in year 2021 of spring, and I have heard about it from my medical team because I was trying to look for me a wonderful pageant organization where I could be able to join and be involved with, and that was very kind and positive and supportive of supporting females and women. And I told my doctor, "What's a good pageant?" Because I wanted to do Miss America, and at the time, I didn't really have the skill set for it at that moment. So I told my doctor, "What's a good pageant I can get involved in?" And she said, "The Miss Amazing pageant." I was like, "What?"
Amazing.
That's
I
and
love
then
the name.
and then she said, "Okay, Imma check that out." So I ended up going home and I did my application, and I was nervous because I wasn't sure if there was gonna be if they I was gonna get accepted to do it based on how many of my conditions I have and my disabilities I have, but I wanted to just give it an opportunity instead of not giving it a chance. And then I got accepted to do my Miss Division because of my age. I was 24 years old at the time, and I did my interviews and all the performances and all the other requirements. And then this was during the COVID-19 pandemic, so we couldn't go in person at all because everything was still shut down in certain areas and closed in certain areas. So we had to do everything through Zoom. And they said I do my interview on Zoom, so I did everything on there, and they said that we was gonna find out about the crowning on YouTube Live, and I said, "Okay, let me tune the YouTube Live on," and then mom and I was sitting here in the living room waiting for the results, and then they showed all the young girls from the preteens all the way to the teenagers, and then the younger girls in the early 20s, and then the mid-20s, and then 30s, and I said, "Okay, I don't see my division yet." And then when they go halfway towards the end, they one of the girls who was in my category picture came on. I said, "Okay, this is the big moment. This is the big moment. What's the result?" And then they showed my picture. Mom walked away out the living room because she was very, very nervous. I stayed in here because I wanted to figure out what the result was, and then the contestant that run against me was crowned the princess. And I said, "Okay, what's going on?" And then they got to my name and it's saying, "Miss." I'm like, "What? Am I dreaming?" And then I watched the whole thing to the end. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I need to go back and replay it again." So I end up going back to the scene again, and it says, "I got crowned the Miss." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I got crowned in my first ever pageant." And I got to go to the national. And so they told me and all the other girls who got chosen to come to Orange County in Fullerton for the crowning ceremony. And I remember I jumped up in the air. I was jumping on my couch and screaming and hollering with excitement. And I ended up running around my whole living room. And mom said I had to calm down. Like, no, I'm not going to calm down. I'm excited about this. And then I get to Fullerton. They have we got a chance to do makeup and choose the dresses. And I saw the crowns and sash and trophies. And like, wow, I really did do this. I really accomplished this. And then that's when I got a chance to get everything I needed. And then they said, "Ladies, y'all do y'all national competition in Nashville, Tennessee." And then me and mom worked on it. And then mom had some struggles going on. And I almost missed when I missed out on it. I said, "No, I got this. Let me try going independently." And then I got a chance to do my first ever cross country travel by myself, long distance for my first time ever.
So
And it
from
was
California to Nashville, Tennessee. Saida, how old were you at this point?
24.
24 years old, you've been crowned Miss Amazing, and now you're going from your state of California, representing California, and you went to Nashville, Tennessee. What did you talk about as being, how it seems like everyone has a cause, they have something that is they're passionate about. What was the thing that you talked about in your interviews that you were passionate about, that you wanted to be a voice for?
Helping all the 100 million girls and women who have disabilities and mental health struggles, and helping them have more support when it comes to the emotional health and depression, anxiety, and self-harming, and ways to help them not want to commit suicide or self-harming anymore. Because in the disability community, self-harming and the suicide rates are extremely, extremely high. And for us girls and women is way more serious and more severe than boys and men who have disabilities and mental health conditions, because us females, we don't have that much support to help us when it comes to our mental health, because our disabilities cause us to have so much pain and emotional pain, and we don't really have a chance to really talk to nobody about it. And I got to a point where, why is there no support for us? And this is, we all getting older, and we got the new generation of girls who have disabilities and rare diseases and mental health conditions, and they have nowhere to go and talk to. And we don't even have that many organizations where we can reach out to when we need help if when we feel a certain way, because the doctor's not always available to help us. And then the NAMI warm line not always able to help us because of our disabilities and developmental disability. This, and then they end up cutting it off for certain services. And if you want the service for certain mental health conditions, you cannot tell the program that you have developmental disabilities and neurodevelopmental disabilities in certain areas, because you will be denied the treatment and the care. So when you want to get help and you have those type of disabilities, you have to tell them no, you don't have it in order to get the services. And that was my platform when I first joined Miss Amazing at the Nationals in Nashville, to help bring the change to action, to help the disabled women and girls that have rare diseases have mental health access and supports, because we struggle a lot, and it's hard to have disability.
Absolutely. Well said. And when I think about the fact that you not only struggled with your rare disease as a little girl, and that of course has stayed with you in some ways, but you've overcome a lot of things by, you're not only walking, but you're a performing artist. You do other kinds of art that I've been seeing, and you're also on our Thrivivors community where we get to come together, and we are so happy that we found Saida a second home. It's always been you and mom. Mom's always been by your side. We got to meet her as well. And I just am so thrilled for the advocacy that you're doing, and for all of those pieces of awareness that are so important. Now, if we go back a little bit to what happened to you when you were just a young girl, it wasn't just your rare disease, it wasn't just the fact that you had a disability, but then you were taken advantage of as well, and that began a very, um, severe time in your life where it just felt, as I know your story a little bit, that it was just one, you know, uh, person after another who you were either abused by, or even worse than just molestation. But would you mind telling us a little bit about that time and why this topic of advocacy has become so important that mental health as well as your physical health and all of the things that you work towards. What happened to you that made you so aware of the problem, Saida?
I went through different forms of trauma from when I was a toddler and preteen and as a child and teenagers. And I went through my first trauma of sexual abuse and physical abuse when I was 6 years old and in my first grade of school. And I remember I had this classes I was in, and the teacher let everybody go out to recess, and I was ready to go out with the whole class to recess as well. And then the teacher assistant told me to stay here in the room with her, and it was just me and her in that room together. And I told her, "Why can't I go to recess?" And at the time, I really didn't know how to really communicate that well because I was still learning how to talk about certain things and how to use my voice about certain things.
Of course,
And
you were only 6 years old, right?
yes, and so
You're a little girl. Everybody has a hard time communicating and having their voice, and this was an adult. It was the assistant to the teacher, and the teacher's assistant doesn't let you go out to recess, and already that's an adult. That's somebody that you're supposed to listen to, right? So, of course, you don't have your voice. You didn't do anything wrong. Tell us what happened next.
and then the teacher assistant decided to have me stay in the room, and I ended up staying in the room, and then I went and tried to give me some food, and then I wasn't able to really have that much of the food that I had on my tray, cause I told her I wanted to have my waffles, and then she took that away from me. So I said, "Okay, she takes that away, I can have my food." Then she took the apple away from me, so I had my banana and my graham crackers and milk, and then she kept saying, "I don't like disabled people. I cannot stand y'all. I cannot stand you." She don't even like being around handicapped people. She said, "What is this? What is this?" And I look like, "Oh my goodness, am I doing something wrong?" And then that's when she kept looking at me, and I got up, and then cause I told her I need to use the bathroom. Let me go to the bathroom. And then I ended up going to the bathroom. I said, "Okay, hopefully she stays there where she is." And then I went to the restroom, and then she came right on in the bathroom when I'm in there. And then she grabbed on me. I like, "What is this? What is this?" I didn't even understand what I was going through at all. And then when at noontime came, everybody's still out doing what they doing. She was hitting on me and kept pitching on me a lot. And then when I end up going back to the school the 3rd day, I liked to use the computer when I was there 'cause I had my favorite video games, and I liked the Sesame Street video games on the computer because I loved the Elmo a lot and Big Bird. Those were
Me
my
too. I love Elmo and Big Bird.
those were my
Cookie
2
Monster.
characters on the computer, and I loved to have the talk screen on the video so I could understand what they was talking about with their Big Bird and Elmo because I really loved them. And then I had to use the bathroom, but I was too scared to go to the restrooms, so I stayed there on the game because I wanted to play still. And then she came up to me and she slammed the computer keyboard out of the computer away, and she hit me. And then she ended up grabbing on me and stuff, and I ended up peeing on myself at the computer desk. And I was just too scared to be moving near her and around her and going to the bathroom. And then mom said, "What happened?" And at that time, wasn't I really did. I told her that the teacher touched me, she hit me. And then when she asked me, "How did you get the mark on you?" And I told her it was my classmate, but I really wanted to tell her it was the teacher assistant again. But I was so nervous and afraid to even say it, and because I really didn't want to go through that pain again because it was already painful and traumatizing enough for me. and then that's when I end up going to a different program eventually when that was over, and then I end up going through more trauma on my school bus, and then that was very painful experience.
How old were you by that time? I know that you were out of that school and mom was trying to protect you and put you were you were now a little bit older when you were on the school bus. Can you tell us about that experience, how that first started and how it continued?
I was the only female on the school bus at the time, and everybody else much older than me, and I'm the only young person on there. And they had a lot of people on there with a few teenagers and few children, 12 years old and 13-year-olds and 11, and they everybody got dropped off, and then the driver took the bus up to the hills, and instead of me going to my summer school on time, I end up being taken to the hills on the bus, and I was trying to figure out, "Where am I? Where am I?" 'Cause I didn't know where I was, and
How
everybody
old? Saida, how old were you?
still.
You were still 6, so this was just later in a different the summertime going to the summer camp, and
Mhm.
okay.
And then get ready 'cause I was going to summer school, and I took the bus because it was a little bit far from home, and I was trying to figure out, "Where am I? Where am I? I don't even know where I am," and I'm the only person on there, and there was the bus driver was a man, and his girlfriend was on the bus too. It was both of them on there, and then the driver ended up getting out his chair, and I said, "What's going on? What's going on?" And he going to the other towards the back of the bus to get some from the emergency exit or some type of equipment or something that maybe I don't know of, and that he ended up messing with me and the girlfriend both ended up messing with me, and then that was just more trauma on top of the of my other trauma, so I had to end up going through that for a while.
At this point, you are just still a very little girl. You're just starting to walk and to use some words and going to a special school, going to a summer school program, and in both of those places, you experienced sexual violence and assault. And so as you moved through that time period, how did you begin to tell your mom anything, or did you still not have any real words? Because so much of the time, you know, physical violence, sometimes there's a bruise or a mark, but sexual violence, there isn't a lot of the time. There's nothing that you can see or that a parent could see. And if you didn't have a lot of language skills at that point, was it just keeping it a secret because you were scared? And then as you got a little older, tell us about how that progressed as you got a little bit older.
I used to I had a few marks on my body from the physical abuse, and I used to hide it so that I wouldn't be questioned about it no more because I wasn't ready to talk about it all the way, and I didn't even understand what I was going through with my body. And so I ended up just after I told mom, and mom didn't really understand it, so I just kept it to myself, and then I just dealt with it on my own a lot. And then once I got older into my childhood years, I still held on to it, but it was bothering me a whole lot, and it was messing with my emotional health real bad and my mental health bad. But
Right.
then I didn't even know what to do because it's not really anyone who you can talk to when you are disabled and have rare diseases, and there's not no support system for that when you are a female. So I ended up just keeping it to myself as I got older, and I got 9 years old, and I still had that trauma held on, and I was just trying to just figure out how to understand it the best way I could. And mom used to role play about the trauma. I'm like, "What is this? What is it?" I didn't understand it at all. So I just listened to her, but I didn't understand what it was about, and I didn't really get it. And so so I ended up just holding on to what I dealt with because I didn't understand what I was going through at all.
Because
And
you
there
don't your language is still developing as any young person at 6, 7, 8. Now you're 9 years old, you have more language, but you don't necessarily have all that knowledge. Most of the time, parents aren't even talking to their children about, sexual things in their body when you know, they're that age. Their idea or what their I guess their hope is that nothing bad has happened, but many times you were telling us on our Thrivivors community when you shared your story that almost all of the disabled females that have gone through sexual violence, assault, rape, or some other thing throughout their in their childhood and early teenagehood years. And I know that something else happened to you a little bit older, and then I wanna know about as you got through that final, period of time where you were like, now you know a little bit more of the words and what's happening, and then when it happened again, how did you get to the point where you knew that you were either going to, you know, disappear into your mental torture or you were going to find your voice? Tell us how you got to that point, but tell us about the next assault that you went through first.
I went through more sexual abuse and more physical abuse at 9 years old, and when I was going to my summer camp, and my camp counselor used to beat me a lot and sexually abuse me, and it was a daily routine thing that was being done to me, and I used to didn't really know why I was getting beat on like I did, and he didn't like disabled people at all, and I didn't even know how to even get around and use my words still cause of my disability and stuff. And I'm like, "What is it? Why he's hurting me? Cause I'm disabled and stuff." And then I went to the break room to give me some food. He used to take my food from me and eat it all up from me. So I didn't have no food, no water, no nothing all day from morning all the way to afternoon time. And then when I went to the playground, he came there with me. He used to stalk me and emotional abuse me, and he just hit me at all areas. I used to get hit with the keyboard on my rib cage. He pushed me down from the slide on the playground, and I got hit on the swing with the little stick, and my he ended up ripping my hoodie up, and I ended up getting hit in the basement, and he sexually abused me in the basement. I could not go nowhere, absolutely nowhere without him there. I was getting stalked. I was getting emotional abuse, physically abused, and sexual abuse, all for only one. And my friend said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" I said, I don't know. I don't know." And my vagina was swollen because of how he did me, and it was painful. And my friends kept asking me, what happened?" I told her, "I don't know. I don't know." But I knew what happened, but I was not ready to talk about that at all. I just wasn't ready to even say what was going on. And then end up I was there for 2 weeks, and I called mom, and I was screaming and hollering because he was hurting me. And then the teenagers was messing with me. So I had a little bit of everything going on at that time. And I'm the youngest person up in there, and everybody there was all men. There was no female camp worker. Everybody was men, 18 and over. And then they had gang members come to the camp a lot to spend time with us, and it was just it was just a lot going on. It was just crazy.
Did did you say there were gang members,
Yeah,
gang members that came to the camp?
yep,
So there was a real unsafe underbelly that was happening at these summer camps that you were attending. And without the words or without knowing that you could voice the words to some safe adult, you just kept these things in. Now, when you hit I'm so sorry that all of that happened to you, Saida. It's just so painful for me to think about someone that is disabled, someone that has, a developmental, um, uh, a disability, and that someone, and many times more than one, you had many who took advantage of that. It just seems so inhuman and inhumane. And I'm so sad and sorry that you went through all of that. And I really want to commend you for the person that you've become and how you started to find your voice, share your story, and then even you got to the point where you even went to Washington, D.C. And I was
yeah.
like, wow, this is amazing. So tell us a little bit about the next part of your story, becoming a teenager, going through some real mental challenges, and then how did you eventually end up in Washington, D.C., Saida?
I end up going through more trauma at 12 years old and 16 and 17 years old, and the I feel the most serious forms of my abuse I went through as I became a teenager was being raped and then going through trafficking and domestic violence and sexually exploitation and going through more sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, and being sexually assaulted numerous times by different men and boyfriends and lots of stuff was going on, and
You
I'm like,
talk
"What
about
is
your
this?"
boyfriend quite a bit, and when you had a boyfriend and you were with him and how it became so abusive and violent. I
Yes, it
remember
did,
telling your
it's
story.
about for 2 years.
2 years. Mhm. Go ahead and tell us where that led you to. When did you finally speak up and start to tell someone with the words that you knew how to then say that you had been trafficked and this whole thing with this boyfriend who had violated you, raped you, and the violence that you had lived through for 2 years? What happened right after that?
After I got raped, I was in pain and my underwear was full of blood, and mom asked me, "What happened? Did you start your menstrual?" I said, "No, I didn't start my menstrual." I told her I just got hurt. I told her I just got injured down there. I told her that I want to come home and take care of myself. And I remember cause my then boyfriend, him and I was spending time together because he was going to have his birthday party, and he was older than me. He was going to turn 15 years old, and I was only 12 years old. And his mom came and picked us up, and she said that she was going to go to the grocery store. And I told her, "Can I come to the grocery store with you?" Said she going to get the stuff at the store, and I wanted to have me some time to give me some snacks, healthy snacks and food and something to drink. And she said, "No, you and him are going to be in in the house." And I said, "Okay, I'm in the house with him." And and at the time, she was saying, It's just him and I." So I said, "Okay, if it's just y'all two together, maybe it's safe to stay there with him." And I got in there, and I was feeling real anxious and nervous, and I just didn't know why I was feeling the way I felt. And so I said, okay, maybe I should just relax a little bit and just get a little bit comfortable here. And so he asked me what I wanted to do, and he said we can have the PlayStation. I said okay, and I chose my favorite game because I like the Big Bird and Elmo video game. It's a lot because I was obsessed with that, and the Barbie games and all the girly video games and the race car games. So he put the Cars video game for the Disney movie Cars, and we played that game. And he said, I got the game on for you in my room." And I said, "Okay, if it's in your room and the game is safe, maybe it's safe to play the video game in the room." And since it's my favorite game and I really love the Cars game, I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna go play it." So I go upstairs and play the game, and then I asked him, "Are you gonna come and play?" I told him, "I got your controller set up for you to play the game with me since you chose 2 players on it." I said, "Come play the game." And he looked at me in a way that I have never seen him look at me before. He was looking at me angry and upset. And I told him, "What's wrong? What's wrong? What's the matter?" And then he threw the controller off the bed, and then the video game ended up having technical problem. And I said, "What happened? What happened?" I said, "What's wrong? Why you throw the game?" I told him I was still playing the game. And then he ended up pushing me onto his bed so hard where I ended up I felt my little part of my neck go up. I was like, "Oh man, I hope I didn't get injured because I had my scoliosis and stuff." And I said, "I hope nothing else will happen because, due to my genetic condition, I also had my heart condition as well." And I said, "Oh my goodness, this is so scary for real. This is not cool." And then he ended up taking my bottoms off. And I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I want to have sex with you." And I said, "What?" He said, "I want to have sex with you." I said, "What is that?" Because I'm like, "What is that? What is it?" Because I didn't really understand what that was at no 12 years old. He said, "I want to have it with you right now." And I froze up, so I didn't know what to say 'cause I was just frozen. And then he ended up doing it with me, and I didn't even want that at all because that was the last thing on my mind. Because I wanted to wait till I was older and fully developed and stuff to do that type of activity with somebody. But I wanted to do it with somebody that I felt more serious with than when I was at that age. Because I was just 12 years old, and I was serious, but I wasn't serious in that formal way. And
Right.
he ended up having sex with me, which was extremely painful, and I did not like it at all. It was just so uncomfortable. And then I was screaming and hollering, and then I heard an older man downstairs below his bedroom, and I was thinking, "Oh my goodness, I hope this is not gonna be no 2-on-1 thing." And I said, "What's that man? What's the man?" And he said, "That's my dad." And I had no idea his father lived with him at all. And I did not know his father was a child molester, yeah, who had been in prison for that. Then I hope his father don't try to come up here and do nothing to me either. Then when I got broke free, I ran and called my mom, said, "Mom, just come now, come now, come right now." And I was in tears. And then I got home, and she saw my underwear had blood in it. She asked me, "What happened? What happened?" I told her, I don't know." Then she said, "What happened?" She said, "Did you start to menstruate?" I said, "No, I don't even have that yet. I just got injured. I'm just hurt." I told I'm just injured down there. So I end up hiding the underwear because she wanted to take it from me. And I told her, "No, no." So I hid it somewhere where she could not find it because I didn't wanna be going through anything because I was too scared, and I didn't wanna have anything to retaliation, and so I just hid it real good where only I knew where it was and where to go to find it at, and then because she wanted to take me to the hospital, and I
Right.
told her, "No, I don't want no hospital." I told her I take care of myself. And so I just end up cleaning myself, and I washed up and took myself a bath, and I was in pain, but I just was not ready to deal with the whole aftermath of everything, and I
And
didn't.
now you know what the word sex, at least what he did to you in a maybe a physical way, but certainly not in the way that you would want to have, a loving partner and somebody to have that experience with. You didn't get any of that. Did you go back there? How did you find out that his father was a child molester?
Because when he came to the school, his mom brought him to the school the 2 days after, and they was talking. And I went through the office to figure out what's going on, because I was very nervous and anxious. I thought, "Oh, no, I hope mom didn't do nothing they where she found the material, my underwear." And the principal told his mother that since his father was a convicted felon, he could not come to the school campus under no circumstances. And I said, "Oh my goodness, I'm glad he father didn't come and get me." And his father used to call me and ask me, "Are you coming back to the house? Are you gonna come back?" And he always called me on my phone, and I used to be so scared as to why his father wanted me, because his father just wanted me to come there, and his older brother was also a felon as well, and his mom too, and they were just a very, very unhealthy household, and everybody in there was just toxic environment, and I just did not wanna put myself in a situation where it probably would have been retaliation, and I didn't wanna go through that, and so
Totally understandable, Saida. Many young people don't want to, it takes the adults in their life to move forward with legal affairs because, most young people just want to get back to what they call normal. And you really didn't have a chance at normal because since you were 6 years old, you'd gone through so many different traumas. And since you were born, you'd gone through another trauma, which was your disability, your rare genetic disease, your your verbal and communication skills, but now you're starting to get some information. You know what this is called. Tell us, let's fast forward to when you were, nothing happened at that point other than that he wasn't allowed back in the school. And then when you were 16, 17, tell us what happened then. And then we'll get into your 20s where the pageant happened and what you did when you went to Washington, which is just amazing to me. So let's go back to about age 16 now. Tell us what was happening at that point.
I had me another boyfriend who I was dating with for some time, and he was older, and he was a little bad boy and stuff, and then I thought, "Okay, he's pretty cool, and he's a little pretty handsome man," and I said, "Okay, I can have me some fun with him." And and then I said, "Okay." So we end up having times where we had food and ice cream together and did some shopping activities together, and he found out months later, and I told him, "How do you feel about dating me, dating a disabled woman? How do you feel about that? By you not being disabled, are you okay with it?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." And I said, "Okay, yeah, sure, I guess that's a good answer." And I didn't know if I should accept that or not. But then I asked him again 2 days later. He said, "What part of the 'yeah, sure' you don't understand?" And I said, "Oh, okay." So I didn't really mind it too much. So I thought, okay, maybe he was just just wanted to make sure that he was okay or what didn't really know what it was. And but I said, "Okay, I take that then. You feel that type of responsibility. Okay." And then we end up going to the mall because I wanted to give me some outfits and stuff because I wanted some comfortable clothes to wear. And I like the girly stuff at 16. I love the because they had all these outfits of the horses and butterflies on it. And I told him, if told him that I want you to give me this outfit. And so I put it in the basket because they had my size and I love the horses a lot. And there was a little horse with the Clydesdale and hearts and stars on it and glitter on it. And it was a hoodie and sweatpants that you match it with. And
Cute.
and I had shoes to match the whole outfit with. And I told him that I wanted him to get the outfit since he said that he'll treat me to give me some outfits and him outfits. So I put them in the basket. And then when we got to the other side of the store, he looked he got his stuff. He wanted more in the basket. And he said, "What the heck is this?" I said, "This is the outfits now I want." I told him I'm happy with it and I want it. He said, "Why you want some mess like this?" I said, "It 'cause it makes me happy. I love horses." I tell I like animals. I love the horse. I love the Clydesdale horse. The Clydesdale horse is one of my favorite horse breeds. And he got very, very angry and upset. And he told me to put it back. And I told him, "No, I don't want to put it back." I told him I want this outfit since you said you was going to pay for the outfits. I said, "I want the outfits." I said, "There's nothing wrong with it." "Oh, there is something wrong with this." He said, "You don't need no mess like this." I said, "It's not mess, it's the horses." And he pushed me and he hit me in the store. And he said, "You don't put these outfits back right now this instant." He said, it's gonna get real ugly up in here." And I said, "No, I don't want to put it back. I love it." And then he ended up moving the basket out the way and he grabbed me by my hair and pulled my head back. And then he said, "You don't get it." And then he dragged me down the aisle by my hair in the store. And then I was screaming and hollering, and the security guard came and helped me. And then I ended up being able to get the outfit. And then that's when I said, I'm leaving, I'm leaving." And then I end up saying, "I need help, I need help." And then they end up having me get out the store, and the security guards kept them inside the store with the basket and stuff. And then when I saw him more times, he was still hitting on me and pushing on me a lot. And then he came here to my house, and then he said he wanted to spend time with me here in my house. And then he ended up hitting me here in my house, and then he had choked me in here in my house and slapped me and hit me, still in my here in my house in my living room area. And I said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And he always just looked at me angry. He said, "I don't like disabled girls." He said, I don't want no disabled girlfriend." I didn't even know how to even use the words to get out the relationship because I felt scared. And then he ended up acting like a nice boy around everybody around. But as soon as nobody was around, he was a whole different person towards me and still hitting on me. And then he ended up sexually abusing me. Then he ended up forcing me to suck his penis. And then I accidentally sucked his penis, which I was not trying to do at all. And then when I tried to put my head back up, he hit me on the back of my neck real hard. And then he used to take my food from me. And he ended up taking my drinks from me. And I pushed him and I ended up throwing my drink at him just to get him to stop and leave me alone. And then he used to just mess with me still. And then at 17 years old, I ended up getting more 16, I got sex assaulted by an older man on the bus because I would not do what he wanted to do. And then I end up having more trauma because his friend, which was my male friend, they both end up sexually assaulting me and forcing me to do all this type of stuff. And he, he wanted to kiss me, and I told him, "Stop it, stop it." And then he grabbed my boobs. I said, "No," and he would not stop for nothing. And he picked me up and put me on the wall and stuff. Said, "I don't want it. I don't want this." And then I go to the other side of where I was, and then another boy got mad because he wanted to have sex with me, and I told him, "No, no." 'Cause and then he ended up throwing $40 at me of cash. He said, "I want sex right now." I said, "No, no." And then he slapped me in my face, and then I didn't know what was going on, and then my boyfriend kept forcing me to do all this sex stuff, and he kept giving me money and all these type of gifts and stuff, and I'm like, "What
Now it
is
becomes
this?"
confusing, doesn't it? It becomes like they do something really terrible and they force you to do something that you don't wanna do, or they threaten you, and then on the opposite end, they come back and they give you gifts, and they act nice when other people are around, and it makes you think that maybe there's a chance still, but eventually, you left that relationship after all of those various assaults. Saida found her voice. And tell us what happened right before you found your voice when you were almost suicidal.
I end up reaching out to one of my super, super good friends who was 50 at the time, and I said, "How do I get out this relationship?" I told her, "It's full of domestic violence and sexual abuse and trafficking and exploitation," and how I told her how they would have me doing sexting, and I told her, "How do I get out of it?" And she asked me, "What type of things you love?" I told her I love music, I love performing arts, and I love dance and theater. I told her I love doing all the performing arts stuff. And I told her I love listening to all my favorite music artists and bands that I grew up listening to from with mom. And she asked me, did I love country music and rock and pop? I told her, of course. I told her I love rock and I love pop music and country music because I grew up listening to it all since I was a baby with mom. And she asked me, do you like 90s country? Because she loved 90s country music like I do, and it all the way down in all the other earlier years of country music. And I told her, yes, I love country. I told her I love country from all the way from the 50s all the way up to 90s and everything else. And she said, do you know the song Independence Day? And I told her, yes, of course. I listen to it all the time. I listen to it constantly with mom growing up. And I told her that that song always was a song that I used to listen to. I kinda love all Martina McBride songs, and then she said, "Try going home and listen to Independence Day," and she said, "Really listen to it and really watch the video," and I said, "Okay, Imma go home, watch the video," and I end up watching the video and listening to the song over and over again. And I said, "Yes, this is," and I felt so much better after listening to it. I felt like it was therapy for me. And then I told her that I wanna get out the relationship. I'm ready to get out of it now after, and I told her I listened to the song and I watched the video. I turned out I'm ready to get out. Help me get out. And so she ended up helping me get out the relationship. And then once I got out, I felt free. And I had freedom. And then that's when I end up just getting into my music and singing and doing dance and everything else to make me feel good. And I end up getting my first guitar and I just played my guitar a lot and sing and songwrite and did writing to help me feel better about everything and communicate myself in the way that I can do it. And
So did you finally tell your mom what had been happening through these years? Because I think a lot of people will be going, "Well, where was her mom when all these things were happening?" And I know that you can keep a secret from your mom for a long time if you're scared and if you don't know what to say and you think something terrible could happen. I kept my secret from my mom and my sisters and my best friend for many years because I was scared. But eventually you were able to from this good friend, she was 50 years old, told you to listen to this music that you liked, and that was the words to that song gave you um the courage to get out of that bad relationship. It's the power of music, it's the power of friendship. And then where was mom in all of this as you were trying to find that voice and start to tell your story?
I told mom in October 2021, I broke free from being a silent sufferer for all the decades and years of all the trauma that I went through. And what happened was when I went to my national pageant in Nashville, I was in we had it was a huge venue because we was at the Marriott, the Gaylord Opryland, and then it's a very big spread out venue. And for some reason, out of all the rooms, I end up going to the room where the older girls was, and I tried to leave that room, but for some reason, I could not get myself to walk and leave that room, and that I could not get out that room at all. I was trying to get myself to leave that room because it wasn't my assigned room at all, but I could not get out there for some reason. So I ended up staying there where I was, and then all the girls came out from all the different states. They had California, my state, Indiana, Texas, New York, Georgia, Virginia, and Alabama, and Illinois, and they also had New Jersey, and they had New Hampshire, Connecticut, and all the other states. And then the, the Indiana girl went on and I said, "Oh yeah, this is good." And then my sister queen, Illinois sister Queen Hope, she came on and she said she was gonna do a PowerPoint presentation. And I said, "Oh wow, this is getting ready to get real deep now. It's getting ready to get serious now." And she said that I'm ready to do a presentation about what I went through in my life. And she said, "It's not nothing light." I said, "Oh wow, this is real. This is real. This is gonna become get ready to become a next level ceremony." And I was ready to go. I was ready to leave the room at first, but something kept telling me, "Stay there and watch it. Stay and watch it." So I went way up to the front row and in the first chair they had way up in the front by the stage, and I sat down and I made myself comfortable because I was supposed to be with my age group, but something kept telling me, "Stay there and look. Stay and look at the presentation." And so she ended up playing the video, and she came on the video, she said, "This is what I went through as a female." And she said, "Had you ever went through trafficking?" She said, "I went through trafficking and all this other stuff." And I said, "Wow, somebody gets it. Somebody understands. There's somebody here, a woman, disabled, doing the same program as me, and a survivor on top of all of that." And I said, "Okay, if she can do it, so can I." And she was struggling like, and I said, "Okay, this is the moment. She can do it. I can do it too." And so I end up going up to her, and I gave her a big hug, and then me and her became friends. And she said, "I'll stay in contact with you. I will stay in contact with you." I said, "Sure, go ahead." And I gave her my number and all my other contact information, and we've been good friends ever since that. And after the nationals was over, I felt like a huge weight got lifted off of me, and then got myself some dinner before I came home from Nashville, and I stayed there. I said, "This is this is it. This is the moment. This is the time where I can free myself so I can live me a happy life because instead of me being in the nationals feeling real happy and cheerful, I was half I was a little happy. I was happy and cheerful, but not in the way that I wanted to feel, because I was depressed at the still sad about what I went through, my trauma. So I said, "Oh, well, this she can get it. She understands when I go through. She disabled. She's a female, and she's a survivor." So 3 months after I came home from Nashville, I broke free in October 2021, and I did more in November, and I did more in December, all the way down to New Year's Eve. And I said, I'm gonna go into the year 2022 as a free, broken free woman and feel strong, and I will do it all. And I did the rest in 2022, and I feel truly, truly amazing. I feel like the biggest weight got lifted off of me, and I felt real happy and cheerful and confident. And I told mom and I told my friends. I got my podcast channel and just unleashed everything on all platforms. And I did not hold back at all. And then I ended up going to therapies. And then a few therapy sessions didn't go good at all. And then something was absolutely terrible experiences. Then I end up getting connected to the rain and all these other organizations for help and healing. And it was a big, 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 big journey. Then I had some therapists that was not supportive of me doing what I did, and they criticized me and told me all type of hateful stuff, and I just end up finding more and more therapists to work with, and after I got myself help and healing, I just became a national activist and advocate for everything in all areas, and me and Hope we've talked about everything, and she helped me get through everything, and I just been doing everything since.
Well, that is so amazing, Saida. And so you pointed out several things. Finding the right therapist. Not all therapists are the right fit, and not all of them are supportive, but you found people along the way, an example that was Hope, your friend Hope. If she could do it, I can do it. That's so important that we have those examples that, and her name is Hope, you know? And I remember when I started my journey of healing and talking about my story, the one thing that I always wanted to, I was, I was trying to tell people the story, like, find your voice, don't be afraid to tell your story. Know that maybe not everybody will listen with empathy, but somebody somewhere along the way will, and that will free you. At least step 1 in your healing is to talk and to not keep a secret, right? And to tell your story. But then my next part was, "Oh, I want people to know that there is hope." And it's so great that your friend that you met, who was your example, her name was Hope. Because I think a lot of times we lose hope when we go through so many traumatic events. And for you being disabled and with your rare genetic disease, and then all of the various kinds of trauma from molestation and exploitation to rape and violence and physical violence and domestic violence and all of those things that made, that people, whether they were just taking advantage of you because you were bright and you were open and you were looking for, friendship and love and all the things that we all want, and then took advantage of you. I'm so glad that now you have found some true friends. We are so happy to know you, Saida, and to know how hopeful you are and how positive you have become. And in that year of 2022, you had found your voice and just kept talking to people and talking about it and talking from October, November, December of 2021, and then starting 2022 fresh and brand new, with big hopes and dreams, and with your friend Hope as well as your friend and your mom now knowing and trying to support you and in the healing and in all those things. When did you go to Washington, D.C.? Tell us a little bit about that as we end our podcast today.
I got it was a huge, huge honor going to DC, and it was a step process to it actually, and I got a chance to got the email because I do the Autism Advocacy Ambassadors Program for people who have autism like myself, and they said that they wanted to have a person from California here where I live, and I live in a small town, and I said, "Wow, this is a big moment. It's a big moment." And they always have people from San Francisco and Los Angeles going at it, and they give my town don't get that much recognition at all. And they I said, "I wanna let me try this out." So I did the application, and I had to wait to figure out if I was gonna be accepted to go to DC to go to the Capitol Hill and the White House and the Senate buildings and all the other buildings in DC. And so after I did my application, 5 days later, I got the email from the director. It says Advocacy Day on Capitol Hill. I like, oh my goodness, I hope I got accepted to go and do that advocating and activism work on the national level for the disabled communities. And then I got the email that says, "Congratulations, Saida, you get a chance to go to Washington, D.C." I said, "Yeah!" It was tracked together. I caught the train from my town all the way down to DC, which was a 4.5 day journey, but it was worth it because I said, "This is the history train ride from all the way from California to DC." I said, "This is the journey. I'm doing it." And then I got to DC, and not only did I get a chance to do the disability advocacy activism work, I got a chance to do my rare disease activism work and advocacy. So 2 weeks of fighting to make change and bringing change to action as the female from my small town doing the big advocacy activism work to help bring inclusion, care to help disabled people get mental health services, educational services, programming to help the children, caregivers, healthcare, therapy, counseling, newborn screenings to prevent people who have genetic conditions, programs to help people take care of the rare heart conditions like myself, and all the and hydrogenized suppurativa (HS) for the rare skin disorders, neurological disorders, and neurodevelopmental disabilities, autism, and many more conditions. And I got a chance to help bring awareness to all the different matters, and I get a chance to do it again next year.
Wow. Saida, you are a champion. You fill my heart with hope and joy. And I'm sorry to break down, but I just admire you. And I am so glad that you were able to live through so many different traumas and to become and come out on the other side as you started your healing journey and you've continued that and to be a part of our community, Thrivivors, and to share your story and your zest for life and your advocacy and your information so that more of us can be aware of the disabled community, autism, other developmental and communicational problems that we don't sometimes think about in how would a person share if they were being harmed and abused like you were, if they were experiencing that kind of sexual violence. They don't necessarily have the words. And so you've brought so much awareness to so many of us and to me and my own life. And I think about you so often. And I think if Saida can do it, so can I. And that to me is a great, great gift that you give to the world and that I wanted to tell you thank you for being so honest, for sharing from your heart and for doing such a marvelous work after having survived and suffered through so many different abuses and traumas in your life. And might we listen with our hearts to the disabled and look more closely at what might be happening? Because as you have mentioned to me before, the numbers in the disabled community who are taken advantage of and abused is off the charts. If it's 1 in 4 girls, at least that's what's reported right now, that it's about 1 in 4. It's probably 3 out of 4 in the disabled community. So you brought a great awareness to us. I can't thank you enough for being on the show today.
You're very, very welcome. I am honored to have done this with you, and I appreciate all the love and support. And I try to do everything I can to help everybody in all areas or all my platforms, and my podcast channel, and I
Yes, tell us what your podcast channel is. How do we listen to your podcast, Saida?
my podcast channel is on the Spotify platform, iHeartRadio, Pandora Radio, and Apple Podcasts, and many more other platforms. And the name of my podcast channel is Wonder Girl Saida, like the superhero Wonder Girl, and my first name.
Saida. So Wonder Girl Saida, and you spell your name Saida. So Wonder Girl Saida. That's how we can find your podcast. And I know you've written some books and some other things that we can have in our notes. And how do people get a hold of those? Do they reach out to you directly?
My writing material is on the WordPress channel, WordPress website under Wonder Girl Saida, and my books is on the Wattpad platform, WATTPAD, and that's under my name as well, Wonder Girl Saida.
Okay. So all those different platforms, we'll put that in our notes. And this is how you can hear more from Saida and follow along with her journey in advocacy and activism. Thank you again, Saida. You've been a pleasure.
You are very, very welcome.